I'm a Lego fiend. I'm going to turn my camera so you can see my Lego wind turbines.
Cool.
And I actually have a little sustainable village. If you see the little turbine down there, that's the newest set with the electric vehicle. So you use the wind turbine to charge a little electric vehicle. And the house I've got over there has a little solar panel. So someone is pitching to Lego to actually do a solar project with beehives underneath it. And so like bees and flowers and things going around. So
Cool.
So yeah, one of the developers that that I work with, I actually just got some of the honey from one of their agrivoltaic sites.
Hey, Jeannie.
Yeah, Brew.
Who's our guest on the show today?
This morning we have Kylah McNabb. Good morning, Kylah.
Hi, Kylah.
Good morning.
You're in Oklahoma and you are going to talk with us, I think, about the S.A.M model. Is that right?
Yeah, I am based in Oklahoma, just south of Oklahoma City in Moore, and was going to talk to you guys today about, it's called the System Advisor Model. So the S.A.M model put out by NREL that basically enables everyday folks to have great access to determine feasibility for wind projects, for solar projects, for battery storage, and how we use that model to help rural science teachers figure out, hey, could we actually put solar panels to help out our school? So this is S.A.M. So we will start with a new project. So when you open up S.A.M, so this is a downloadable tool that you just download straight to your desktop. It's free to use. That is the best element of this. And it's essentially making use of all this public data that's put together and putting it into a computer model that none of us could ever do in any of our lifetimes. So for instance, if we want to do a solar model, go to photovoltaic and look at this. You get different options. So we're going to do a detailed photovoltaic, a PV model. And then you can even have the choices between if you're going to do it with a power purchase agreement, if it's distributed, which is what we did for the schools. And then even within here, you have different options. And what this does is it pre-populates the model with certain assumptions when it comes to the financial analysis. So for the schools, we did a commercial owner. And from there, it pops up your starting points. So over here on the left, it gives you all the different variables that you can change. And so stepping through this, again, what's really neat is it pulls in all this public data from openei.org. They pull all this data for solar radiation, wind, so you don't have to be a meteorologist. You don't have to be, that academic economic policy person. You don't have to fully understand utility rates. You just pick whichever one fits you. So you can look up, the starting point adds in areas of solar resource. So this actually pulls in very specific. So here is where, so Paola is a rural school that's southeast of Oklahoma City. And so with this, it pulls in, what is the sun resource throughout the year there? And you can go down and it has all this automatically calculated. And this is where it gets a little bit overwhelming. So don't let your eyes get crossed on this one. So from there, look at all the different solar panels you can choose from. So this actually, for the project that we did with the schools, proved to be the hardest part, because how in the world do you know which solar panel to choose from that?
Wow. Yeah, a lot of choices.
So from here, what we did is I actually recently had solar panels installed on my home. We put them in about a year ago, finally made the jump to do it. So we decided to use the solar panels that we used on my house, just as a good starting point. So, but from here, you can pick any number of different ones. So I'm going to just choose one. And then it's neat because see, it automatically pre-populates the power curves, and all the different parameters behind it. Things that are, well, I'm not an engineer by any means. I'm more a meteorologist, climatologist, geographer. And so while I understand all these components, how they all play together, that's not necessarily up my alley. But you choose a panel, and then you choose an inverter, similar thing. You can choose an inverter, whichever inverter pairs well with the solar panel. And then you can actually go to the system design. And the best way you can do on doing this is, here is where you choose how big your solar farm is, or your solar project. So we did a smaller style project, because when you're talking about a school, we work through the research elements of them that they wanted to figure out, okay, how much energy would they need to produce for about 70% of their energy usage, that kind of good general rule of thumb that you want to hit. The incentives is really neat too, because it does take into account, as you can see up here, the desire, which is a fantastic, again, open access, free information database on what incentives are available by state and by location. So this took into account the investment tax credit, a production tax credit. And again, this pre-populates based on what you want to do. And this is probably my favorite one right here. This actually enables you to look for your electric rate. So what is your utility?
Eversource.
Eversource?
Here we have Eversource.
So look at all the different rates they offer. So this enables you to have that personal application for what makes sense, so you can see the actual output. And then the last component, which is always very critical, you are able to enter in all the different values for your own electric bills to be able to do the analysis. And so it doesn't have to be on a January to December basis. It can be on a rolling. It's always just a good rule of thumb that you use the most recent 12 months. And you do want to have 12 months because obviously seasonalities, things are going to be different. And in this instance, what we did with the schools, we actually did 3 years, because as most folks may remember, we had a slight winter storm take place in February of
Just slight.
Just a little one, just got a little cold. So that's an outlier, of data. You definitely need to consider that as an outlier. So we want to, outdo the effects of that. So to show you the really neat part, and this is what you're going to love. So this was already the pre-populated. This is the project that we did. When you simulate it, it goes through all its calculations, it's thinking. So again, taking advantage of that supercomputer that NREL has to put all these variables together. And this is what you get. And the really nifty part, you can even export all this data to Excel. So then as you do multiple configurations, you can even continue on with your own analysis. So this shows how much energy is produced by month. And this is what we looked at in particular. So this is how much energy they used and how much energy that they produced. So you can have this comparison graph, because that is truly what then informs, does it make sense for them?
So they're producing a lot more than their electric load.
Well, and this one's a little bit off. So because the capital cost, so you've got a capacity factor 18.6%. So, producing at 100%, 18.6% of the time. I think what's super interesting too, for Oklahoma in particular, we have the cheapest electricity rates in the nation, both from a commercial side and from a residential side. And so taking a look at what the cost of energy is compared to what the cost is to produce it, to us is a big deal and is something that we looked at.
And is there net metering there?
We do have net metering, and they actually just recently updated our law to enable projects up to 300 kW in size, kilowatts in size. And that is up from the original law had a size limit of 100 kW, 100 kilowatts, or if you could only produce up to 25,000 kilowatt hours a year. So it was at least favorable. Now, a policy element on net metering we are working on is we are not able to roll over month to month to be able to take advantage of that. And what you're paid is typically avoided cost. So those are areas that we do still need to do some work on, but we're getting there.
So you got to get more electric cars and use the solar for them.
We do, very much so. And we're actually seeing quite a bit of growth in that area. We've actually just finished building out the state in partnership utilizing the Volkswagen settlement funds has basically deployed this amazing EV charging network. We have EV chargers every 50 miles along all the major highways and even into rural areas.
Oh, that's
Cool.
great news.
So Kyla, I want to get a good look at that power gen hourly heat map for all the days of the year.
So this basically enables you to take a look at how much power is produced, again, just kind of over the course of a year, and what part of the day is the most power being produced. Oftentimes for wind, you see the most power done at night. I mean, at least that's the general rule of thumb. Clearly for solar, you're talking about the midpoint of the day. So this is as you would expect about hour 12, thinking that, 0, of course, is midnight, and going to midnight the following day, you would expect around the noontime, and then you can see the seasonality. You can see here as you trend towards spring, as there's more daylight hours, and then going back to winter where it shrinks a bit because, of course, we have less sunlight during the day. Of course, this takes into account local weather. So those were going to be days. My guess is this was actually part of the winter storm that took place. We were overcast with snow for, 14 days straight, I think it was. And so that's where you see that effect.
Well, this is amazing. I have to say that you made it look really simple. I popped onto it yesterday, and as soon as it said, this tool is for renewable energy contractors, I was like, okay, well, I'm not one. So I just didn't spend a minute, but I think I'm going to try again.
To me, the most overwhelming element is the modules or the inverters. So I think to have an idea of what type of module and then what type of inverter associated goes along with that, the rest of the process can be filled in and is easier. But this is overwhelming. But at the same time, while overwhelming, you may have different solar panels that are cheaper for you up in the Northeast as opposed to what we have down here in Oklahoma.
Where can people find this? Is it just on NREL's website?
Google System Advisor Model. That's going to give the quickest link to be able to get to it. I believe it's sam.nrel.gov, but Google System Advisor Model by NREL, and it'll come up.
Well, it's really great to meet you and get this walkthrough. I imagine that all of our followers are going to try to jump on here and see what could work in their schools and homes and communities, because we need more of this stuff and we need it distributed, I think. And this is really, really helping people.
Yeah. Thanks, Kyla.
No problem. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share it with you.